Hi, and welcome back to Getting Started with Semaphore. In today's video, we are going to be covering the basics of the workflow builder. We will be setting up our first tests on our pipeline, and we will also check where Semaphore stores its configuration files. So if you're ready, let's get started. When we created our project last time, we've ended up at this page. And now if we want to access the workflow editor, we just need to click on the Edit Workflow button here. But the same thing can be done if you're on the project page. There's also this button here and you can click on it. So let's click on the Edit Workflow button. And now we get the Workflow Builder screen. The Workflow Builder comprises of several components, and these are called pipelines, blocks, and jobs. And when we've created our first project last time, Semaphore automatically created our first pipeline for us, which is called initial pipeline. And in that pipeline, there is a block that is called block number 1. And that block contains one job that is currently called job number 1. What we are going to do is we're going to add another block to our workflow, which is going to contain our unit and integration tests. So let's set it up. Let's click on Add Block here. And you can see that another block is immediately created. And let's name it tests. We name it because we want to add some context information. And now if you want to add jobs to it, let's name the first one unit tests and add another job by clicking on the add job here. And let's name the second job integration tests. And you can see that the information refreshes here in the workflow editor, and we can see our blocks. And now what we want to do is we want to add some commands to our jobs. For now, what we're going to do is we're just going to echo, basically just print it out. But usually what you want to do here is basically run any commands that trigger your tests. And before running any tests, what we also need to do is basically check out the code from our repository. There's this thing called here prologue, which basically executes commands before triggering jobs. And in this case, we have an internal command called checkout, which basically check out your repository code. And this is triggered before each job run. So it's important to know that the jobs that are in your block actually get executed in parallel, which means that if you want to do multiple jobs at the same time in a block, make sure that they are not dependent upon each other. So unit tests and integration tests aren't dependent upon each other, which is why we've added them to the same block here. Okay, now we want to save this information. And if you want to do that, we click on Run the Workflow. And in this case, what's going to happen is Semaphore is going to automatically generate a YAML file for us. So usually when we use CI/CD tooling, we have YAML files, and in those YAML files, we define our pipelines and what needs to be done in order to trigger our workflows. The workflow builder basically generates this YAML syntax for us, and you can easily see what's going to happen once we trigger our save. So this is basically a commit that's going into our repository, and you can see the fields that are marked in green is basically the block that we've just created. So let's click on looks good start. So if you want, you can change the commit message, but we're just going to trigger this. So let's click. And what's going to happen is the workflow is going to get triggered. And you can see it right here that the first job was triggered in the first block. And once this block finishes, the next block will get triggered. And both of these jobs, unit tests and integration tests, will run in parallel. So this is how you basically add integration and unit tests to your workflow. And you can see that it's really easy to do so. But if you want to write this information on your own, you can manually edit the YAML files. And right now we're going to have a look at where these YAML files are located and how you can change them on your own. Semaphore stores its configuration into a file called semaphore.yaml, and this file is currently located at a branch called setup-semaphore. So when we create our first project, Semaphore automatically branches the main branch, and it creates a new branch called setup-semaphore. And in that branch, all of the information is currently stored. So if we check out edit workflow again, we can basically see here that we can also edit individual YAML files. So let's click on this semaphore.yaml file, and you'll see that this is basically the thing that we just committed to our repository. If we also go and check our repository on GitHub directly, you'll see if we switch to the setup-semaphore branch that a folder called .semaphore was created for us. And you can see that the semaphore.yaml file is located in here. And if you want, you can change these files on your own and also write extra logic for your workflows. You could then basically only need to commit to GitHub in order to trigger your workflow. We've used the workflow builder to create our first pipeline, and we've also integrated unit tests and integration tests into it. In our next video, we will be adding continuous delivery to this process. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and also join our Discord community. Links are below. See you next time.